ND filters. Now, when you are filming video, this does not account in any way, shape or form for photography, unless you're doing long exposure photography in the middle of the day. If you're not, then you don't need an ND filter on your drone if you're just doing normal photography in the middle of the day. However, in order to make a really smooth and cinematic video, you need to double your shutter speed. So what that means for anybody who's new to this, if you set your drone up at 4K 30 frames per second, your shutter speed will need to be 1/160th. Because the minis do not have a variable aperture, so that's the f-stop number that you could change to make it darker or lighter, the potential is that in the middle of the day, especially if it's sunny or you live in climates that's not the UK, that you're going to find yourself, if you set up your camera to ISO 100, 4K 30, 1/160th, your image is going to be too bright and washed out. So the only way you can then adjust that is by increasing your shutter speed, which will then make your footage more and more jittery. Nobody wants jittery footage. So the way we get around this is by adding an ND filter to the drone. And it'll take you a few goes to get used to which ND filter you need for which conditions. You can set up your camera on the ground. The great thing with the minis now, obviously, you can point up to the sky and you can check your exposure on the screen. But just bear in mind, if you're pointing it down and the shadows, it may change slightly. So be aware that you may need to just change them every now and again. Essentially, what an ND filter is a pair of sunglasses for your drone. Not only does it make it look cool, like the Fonz, but also it helps reduce the amount of light going into the sensor, which means you can then set up to 1/160th if you're shooting at 4K 30. If you're shooting at 4K 60, then it'd be 1/120th, so on and so forth. You double your shutter, you double your recording speed. These ones by Skyreat I found are the best, so there is a link in the description down below to go and grab your own. Like I say, if you find that you've bought a drone or you've been bought a drone literally just to take pictures during the day, then maybe hold off getting a pair or a set of these for the time being. But if you ever are in the game of taking long exposure photography during the day, you're going to increase your shutter speed. And if you increase your shutter speed, you're letting more light into the camera. If it's in the middle of the day, again, you're going to have exactly the same problem. You want to increase that shutter speed to make the exposure longer. However, that brings in too much light. And the only way on the Mini to then reduce that is to reduce the ISO. Obviously, you're going to be at 100 ISO in the middle of the day anyway, so you can't reduce it any further. So the only way, again, is to add an ND filter. There is a link in the description down below. Go and grab yourself a set. Trust me, you'll come back and thank me at a later date.